Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Mein Name ist Martin Giertz. Ich bin der österreichische Wirtschaftsdelegierte für die nordischen Länder. We switch into English. We've decided that we'll conduct this webinar in the English language for the benefit of those who don't speak German or Swedish. My name again, Martin Giertz. I'm the Austrian Trade Commissioner here in the Nordics. In Stockholm this morning on a rather wet, dark and cold morning. Happy that you have joined us in such big numbers. This webinar, and this is probably why you've joined anyway, is dedicated to Ericsson's Industry 4.0 Partner Program. Just a few technical details. This is a live webinar. We've prepared very well, but nevertheless there could be hiccups. So I already asked you to already apologize for any technical mishaps we might have. This webinar will also be recorded for the generations to come, but also for those who couldn't join this morning, or for you if you want to check one detail or another. You will also receive copies of the presentations afterwards. If you have questions, I would ask you to ask them in the chat, so post it in writing in the chat function of this application. One thing I also wanted to mention, this is very special to this webinar. We have agreed with our friends from Ericsson that immediately after the webinar, 3 of you will have the opportunity of 10-minute slots. So you could actually then talk directly with our 2 presenters from Ericsson, and they will explain to you in more detail the partner program, also the concrete opportunities. That doesn't mean that all the others will be excluded, but we just wanted to offer this possibility for those who wanted to stay a bit longer. So if you are interested, also indicate that by posting your interest in the chat. So we will select 3 of you. That doesn't mean, again, that all the others will not have the opportunity later on an individual basis, but immediately after the webinar, there will be 3 10-minute slots. So express your interests, please, in the chat. This partner program, Ericsson's Industry 4.0 partner program, is embedded in our efforts to attract more Austrian companies to the smart industry sector here in the Nordics. We have, for the last few months, looked more deeply into the smart manufacturing sector in the Nordics. A report on this sector will be available shortly, and I think it's a fantastic offer from Ericsson to also open the Industry 4.0 program to Austrian companies. I'm very happy that 2 experts from Ericsson are joining us this morning. It's Jan Dickmann and Sebastian Elmgren. Jan is Technical Account Manager. Good morning, Jan, for Advanced Industries at Ericsson. He will give us the context in which this partner program is actually being set. He will be followed then by his colleague Sebastian Elmgren, who will introduce himself after Jan will have handed over to him. We've got an hour altogether for this webinar. At the end, as I said before, there is a Q&A session. Please do post your questions into the chat function of this application. Without much further ado, Jan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Martin. I'm very happy to be here today, and hello to everybody out wherever you might be. As already introduced, my name is Jan Dickmann. I work within Ericsson dedicated networks, mainly working with Industry 4.0 and partners that we bring into our partner ecosystem in order to accelerate the take rate of 5G within industries. And I jump right into it because I think I'm giving a bit of introduction and setting the scene for what my colleague Sebastian will introduce later, the Ericsson Partner Program. So where did it all start, basically? It started when Ericsson, being one one of the market leaders in cellular technology, grabbed the opportunity of bringing 5G, the new generation of mobile networks, into industries. And when we started this journey, we saw very early that there are a couple of challenges that come towards industrial manufacturers or other verticals, taking the shift into a more data-driven production, into a more automated production, going towards going down that path towards Industry 4.0. So a couple of industry trends, of course, are firing up the need for a reliable and predictable mobile connectivity. But there are a lot of other challenges as well, and we're going to look into those. And the multitude of these challenges that industries are facing have also led to us setting up our partner program in order to not only look at the connectivity part, but also to look at the overall ecosystem that might be applicable to provide certain benefits with together with 5G. So I'm not going to go into each and every of these items listed here, but for sure it has really shown, and that is what we hear from industries a lot, is that either having several different ecosystems for wireless connectivity bears a higher cost. So one platform that can cater for all or most of the needs would be really beneficial. And secondly, the reliability and predictability, what you need for a real industrial environment, is not there yet. And that is what 5G really brings to every sort of vertical within manufacturing, ports, everything that goes with data-driven, data acquisition, automation sort of means. So wireless connectivity is, of course, bringing benefits to the overall digitalization, to automation, and to connected worker safety, because what we see is with a high degree of automation, there is human and robots working together, putting new requirements onto safety, especially, but also wanting to fire up basically the need and the utilization of data that needs to be acquired all along the value chain. So we see a lot of use cases that haven't been commercially or technically possible or viable before, now being able, utilizing the power of 5G, the determinable latency, the high throughput, and the reliability that a cellular system actually brings into the shop floor, the port, or whatever, wherever you might want to use it. And just throwing a couple of these applications, everything that goes with mobility, AMRs, AGVs, connected worker like AR, VR, security cameras, drones where you can't wire them, putting a lot of sensors for data acquisition, now more freely and more cost efficient with 5G, is firing up or is really helping the overall digitalization of the industrial environment. So we're talking here about private 5G or dedicated networks, as we call it. And the real good thing here is that 5G is a communication platform that is available out in the wild, out in the coverage in many countries already established, but also giving the possibility to shape your network for the requirements of your specific enterprise that you're running. So basically, it's about robustness, it's about operational fit, It's about security that is already imminent or an integral part of cellular system by definition, but it's also about scaling up the ecosystem in order to make use of that technology. So in the very end, it's an ingredient, but it needs to be simple to use, it needs to have a low TCO, and it needs to interoperate with the brownfield deployments that are out there. What is a private network? Just a very, very quick recap, basically giving an example here. In a mobile network as we know it, deployed in almost every country, let it be 4G or already 5G, an operator runs the core and the radio network and the users attached to that network. That means all data basically goes via one or multiple central core network elements that are managed and operated by the mobile network operator. At the moment, the main data consumed here is video on the downlink, so consuming YouTube, Netflix, whatsoever. While a private network might have other means or other priorities to serve certain use cases within, let's be a factory here. Sorry, I lost the screen. Let it be a factory here that are specifically designed for that factory. When we started this journey and looked at various vertical industries, we found actually that many of those have very similar requirements from the core. Of course, every industry is different, every manufacturer is different, but the overall requirements that we saw were very, very similar. So it's about easy installation and management. It's about high reliability and availability of a wireless communication system. It's about easy integration with existing IT and OT systems, because we're not only talking about greenfield, we're talking a lot of digitalizing brownfield equipment as it is installed today. They require all of them easy operation and maintenance, and they want, of course, to benefit from these, call it new use cases or new applications that are now possible or easier to achieve with 5G as a wireless technology. There are other things, and one of these things, of course, is safety and data security. And many manufacturers see their data as their assets, so they want the data to stay local. That's why they often don't want to hold their production data over sort of an external core network. They want everything on premise, and that's what a private 5G system gives you by having everything, the core network and the radio network, on your premise, so no production data basically leaves the premise. So as I already said, 5G is an accelerator, it's a catalyst for Industry 4.0, but of course it's not the end-to-end picture. So if we look at processes, actors, and sensors, whatever might be deployed within an environment, cellular connectivity is the glue that puts the thing together, that allows all the actors or sensors on the OT environment to communicate potentially with higher layer IT systems. But we, of course, need to be ready to have all these systems connected. And this is exactly where our Industry 4.0 ecosystem kicks in, because when we started this journey, there was very few modules, devices, gateways, and also higher layer systems ready to interwork with 5G. we found that many of these platforms, of course, are API driven, so we built that into our platform, and we did a lot of other efforts in order to stitch all these things together. So in a nutshell, connectivity is a very important part, but it's just a small part of the overall picture. To give you an example, AMRs or AGVs have been around for ages. So many manufacturers use AGVs in order to for their management of goods, for supply chain on the shop floor. So they have been around and they have been driving. They worked actually without 5G. Then the next generation of more smart AMRs came on board, so with a lot of onboard functionality in order to determine a little better path planning, to utilize cameras on board, maybe even to already start inventories with the camera capabilities they now have. But also this might not require a wireless communication platform. They can go one by one individually with all the onboard capabilities they have. The next step, and that is actually going really towards a data-driven operation that not only takes into consideration data that is produced by each and every single AGV. The next step is to collect data from many sources, from sensors, from cameras, from each individual AGV, and utilize the compute power, partially even already AI driven. AI is no longer just a buzzword, it's becoming reality. To, in real time, optimize the path planning, do constant map updates, and therefore get to a higher productivity. This is, I think, a nice example where 5G really can give a benefit to things that are well known already today and in use on the shop floor, but that can leverage really the power to even take the next step into an Industry 4.0 data-driven model. So we in Ericsson, of course, we are experts in wireless technology, in 4G, 5G, you name it. But indeed, in order to set the scene for manufacturers to speak the language, to identify the needs, and to also leverage the existing know-how about production chain and ways of working, we have, of course, partnered up with companies that are playing a role in various parts of the industry, that have the technical know-how, that can evaluate also the business impact, that have this specific vertical competence, and that are aware of the industry challenges in order to understand and build the next level of use cases utilizing the power of 5G. To give an example, sensors utilizing technology of IO-Link have been around for a couple of years and becoming, so to speak, a de facto standard within production. However, IO-Link masters still need to be wired to somewhere to send their data and receive potentially upgrades for configuration files into an OT system. If now we can wire or take away the wires of these IO-Link islands, call them, and replace them by a 5G link, either going into the OT world or going into the IT world, or taking, as depicted here, with a YPass sort of thing, taking both together, this gives a manufacturer much more freedom to place sensors where it wasn't possible before, to be more flexible in the production, to rearrange production lines just by connecting these already existing sensor technology to a 5G link and get data in real time, either to IT or to the OT part of the world. This little example here is a good example where we built a proposition together with partners how to use 5G in the most beneficial way for already deployed systems or for future greenfield systems. So with this introduction, I'm coming to what we have packaged as a product specifically built for industries. We have really focused not only on technology, but also on the surroundings, right? Not many industries are expert in 5G. So we had to make it as easy as possible to get and deploy a 5G system, including the first use cases that provide immediate value to the industry. And so Sebastian will go into that one in a couple of minutes. So we have really built an environment that includes training, that includes ordering, that includes also pre-packaged use cases, so to speak, and we have made the system as easy to manage basically as today's Wi-Fi system. And how have we done that? Of course, we have put a lot of work into that ourselves, but also by constantly talking to our partner ecosystem, we have learned what is needed in the industry, what is required in terms to have an operational fit here. And the way we have done it, I hand over to Sebastian now, where he will describe a little more in detail what is our way of working with Industry 4.0 partners here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan. May I just briefly interfere, just to remind our listeners that they have the possibility to ask questions in the chat function of this application. Also, you have the opportunity, 3 of you, immediately after our webinar, to go into a individual discussion with our friends from Ericsson. Please also express your interest in the chat function of this application. You will then be contacted by email and you will receive a Teams link for those individual 10-minute slots after our webinar. Now the floor, Sebastian, is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Jan. So my name is Sebastian Eriksson. I'm head of business development for dedicated networks, located in Stockholm. So also enjoying the snowy weather here. So I will continue a bit on what Jan's presentation here, digging a bit deeper into what we actually do in the partner program and what it takes to join. So we have divided our partners into different categories in order to fit them into the full stack solutions that we are looking for here. So we have 3 main parts here. We have, of course, the device and hardware vendors. Those are the guys who provide equipment, gateways, sensors, and so on in order to be able to connect to the 5G network, both building 5G into new products, but also, of course, retrofitting. And then we have on the top of the stack, so to say, we have our software and application partners who are providing the applications where the data will end up at some point, MES systems, ERP systems, and a whole bunch of other software solutions. And then we have the professional services, the system integrators, the business advisors, putting all of these solutions together. And we try to provide these different categories with what they need to contribute to the partner program at maximum and optimizing for the different categories here. So the partner program, it's a journey. You can decide how much you want to engage, everything from very low touch to deep collaboration, depending on the mutual strategies that we set up. But it's all kind of starts, as you will see, with just a simple NDA that can be combined with a co-marketing agreement in order to do some marketing around joining the ecosystem, and that will then open up the partner portal that we have that gives you access to all the goodies, as you will see here moving on. So the first step into the program is very low, and then you can take it as far as you want. So here you can see some examples of the already existing partners we have here, and we couldn't fit all of them. So on Ericsson.com we have the full list, but this gives you a feeling on the kind of companies and the numbers that we have. I think we have 100+ partners in the program right now. And as I said, you can see here we have the different categories here. We have the device partners, making it possible to retrofit onto existing equipment with gateways and sensors, so on. With these partners, we offer, of course, access to the technical documentation, but also we work with testing in our platform. Sorry for blacking out from time to time here, but there is a timer, so if I'm too still, then we turn off the lights here. But to make sure that the devices play nicely, we offer access to our test bed, and we test these devices, making sure they play nicely with our networks, also giving advices how to optimize their solutions for dedicated networks. And once they have passed the test, they get the little badge. So next to the logo on the Ericsson.com, where we show the ecosystem, there is also then a little badge showing Ericsson connected. So people know that these solutions are tested and works with Ericsson networks. Similar, we work with module vendors. That's of course when you want to build something into your device. You need something, a module, and then we work with the main module vendors here. Again, testing against our solution, making sure we get optimal performance from them, and then they can get a little badge for having been tested. If we look at the software vendors, you can see it's a broad category, different kind of solutions. As Jan mentioned, we are exposing a lot of APIs from our network, so they get access to the APIs, so they can build solutions on top of that, creating kind of ready-made building blocks, doing pre-integration and blueprints. So whenever a solution is to be built, there is a ready building block to take here, minimizing the integration needs and speeding up the uptake of 5G in the industry. And then we have the professional services, it is the system integrators and the business advisors. As you can see, it's a broad range of companies here as well, from low-level integration to integration complete companies. But these guys, they get access to our training, so they can get a badge when they are trained at different levels on our products, so they know how to build on that, how to integrate. And they also get access to the complete ecosystem as everybody else, and so they have these ready-made building blocks to build a solution. So our strategy here is we understand we only provide the infrastructure. We need friends to create a full stack solution, and by having the solution that is easiest to build other solution on top of, we think we have the most attractive offering here. But then we also need to create this ecosystem. So here you can see the different steps. So we have kind of a scouting where we try to find good partners, and then we start with NDA, so we can start to share information in a good way. And also there is the possibility for a co-marketing agreement that states how we can use each other's logos when we communicate externally. And then we have an onboarding activity, making sure that the partner get access to our partner portal and understand where to find all the different assets there. And then depending on how far and what the partner wants to do and what kind of partner it is, there are different tracks here. We have the training in the partner portal. We provide a lot of different training and courses around this that can lead to badges once we have a certain number that has passed the training for a company. We have activities where we create technical blueprint, as I was talking about, and they often then lead to use case and value creation, so we understand what potential common customers could be. And then we can engage and create a small funnel and go after those identified customers on the whatever market that specific partner wants to address together with us. So that's kind of how we do it. We get to learn each other's solutions. We create a common picture of the common value, and then we start addressing common customers. So here you can see an example how we built a joint architecture. This is a template we often use, so we can map what is Ericsson doing, what is the partner doing, do we have any gaps to create the full stack solution, should we bring in other partners, and how does it all come together. So quite straightforward, but it gives a good picture from both sides on how the solutions come together, where we are creating value. And here you can see the Enterprise Partner Program portal, where you will find all the assets once you've signed up. So there is different PowerPoint packs where you can discuss private 5G if you need to have that in customer discussions. We have the online training and the certifications on the product that you can take. There is also industrial-led training from time to time that you can join. There's marketing assets that you can use in your campaigns that can be co-branded. Different kind of sales tools. You get access to the advanced product information. There's also in the portal access to the APIs, so you can try that out. And you can also get access to our sandbox if you want to try the APIs against the live network. In addition to the partner portal, which is kind of between the partners and sharing information there, we also have called Ericsson Partner Marketplace, which is a place to highlight 5G-enabled products, everything from hardware, software, services, and solution. So this is a marketplace, but there's no transactions with Ericsson. So our partners, they can put up their products that is part of the ecosystem, and then it's a searchable database for different criteria, and then interested customers can request a quote, which is then sent directly to the partner. So, but this is to accelerate the uptake of 5G technology. As we've seen, it's often a bit hard to find the right solutions or software, services, and hardware for enterprises who want to adopt 5G, and therefore we have made this marketplace as a way of finding the right components for whatever that specific enterprise is trying to build. And here you can see some examples of outcomes from the partnerships. I won't dig too deeply into each part here, but you can see we have cases where we accelerated adaptation of cellular technology, like together with Atlas Copco. They have integrated 5G into their power tools. We have been working with HMS to create a starter kit for 5G, combining with their gateways and sensors to make it easier to start working. We have done work together with PTC, joint offering, and integrating the APIs from the Ericsson Private 5G into ThingWorks. We have done a lot of marketing activities, for example, Hexagon and PTC here again. And then, I mean, in the end, we want to see proof of value, and we have end customer deployments with ecosystem partners like Epiok, Hitachi, and Ambra. So there's a lot of activities on all different levels, and it's very customizable where you want to go and what you want to do inside of this ecosystem. It's the 5G for the industry that is keeping it all together. So that was what I wanted to share here today. So I don't know if we have any questions that has popped in, or they might come now.
We do actually, Sebastian, and I still encourage our listeners to ask questions by writing them into the chat. Again, want to remind you of the opportunity to have a one-on-one after this webinar. Just express your interest again in writing via the chat function. We'll then send 3 of you, that's as much time as we've got, a Teams link, an invitation for a 10-minute slot with Jan and Sebastian after the webinar. But yes, we have received questions. There's one from Werner asking, what is your approach on using a hybrid cloud storage? Are you also looking into QKD?
So if I understand, it was a question on hybrid cloud storage.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So storage isn't a part of the Ericsson offering, but of course it can be integrated into the 5G solution. We see that as a way of accelerating the uptake of edge solution, and then with a network that can transport a lot of data. But then of course combining that with a hybrid solution, so part of that is stored in a central cloud, is often a good approach, where you with the edge part, make sure to optimize what you send up to the main cloud, so to say, and what you consume on site. I don't know, Jan, if you want to add something there.
Yeah, maybe to put it also in the context of a private network. As Sebastian said, the storage is not part of our offering. It's either existent in many facilities already, or being set up in a specific way. The good thing with a private network is, of course, as Sebastian already outlined, you are basically already on what is considered the edge, right? And then you can decide whether you use your data on sort of the edge in real time, or if you put it to any other central cloud for later data crunching, or just as a repository. So basically, the system as such supports, of course, each and every type of storage that you would want to use for a certain purpose.
All right. Another question, maybe a bit more generic, refers to security, cybersecurity. Does the 5G system grant security and privacy, data privacy? Could you elaborate on that? How is that being achieved? Do you have any technical solutions which are different to Ericsson than to other providers?
Yeah, maybe I start, Sebastian. Then,
yeah, please.
So, of course, as I said in the beginning, so 5G technology as such is indeed on, with regards to encryption, on the communication, on the air interface, and within that 5G chain, is quite secure by design. Nonetheless, of course, there are other attack vectors to such a system, and the more devices I connect, the more attack vectors I get. So we have also used data security by design, so to speak, when we designed the system, to make it not accessible by either friend or foe, so to speak. So the system comes as a completely shielded system with no access to CLIs. Everything is separated via APIs. When it comes to operation and provisioning, for instance, we constantly scan, of course, the market and the system for potential new attack vectors and react on that by closing any gaps. But we have really, because we got this requirement very much from the beginning, that data security is a key topic. So we have built, so to speak, an encapsulated system, and we have introduced certain measures to identify, for instance, dormant devices, dormant users, just to give a few examples here, in order to make it easier to operate also under the view of data security.
I can just add that, I mean, part of the security is, of course, also the SIM card, which is fundamental to cellular technology. So in a private network, you do write your own SIM cards. So you get the empty SIM cards, and inside the factory, you write the credentials onto the SIM cards, and only devices with your SIM cards can connect to the network. So that's a very fundamental layer of security with hardware-based keys that's been proven to be very safe. Also, it's the same technology as we see in the big 5G and 4G networks that have been proved over the years.
Thank you. Another question. Are there any steps in test for standards, that is interfaces to small data centers?
Not sure I understood the question. Can you maybe repeat it?
There is unfortunately not much more I have. It probably refers to interfaces to smaller data centers, and whether I'm interpreting here.
I mean, it should be quite transparent for any data center, no matter what network technology is in the background, so that should work seamlessly. The end application shouldn't notice. What then can be done is, of course, if you want to extend the integration, is to do some clever stuff using the APIs, where you can control and segment the network and prioritize the traffic based on the needs of that data center, and also, as we've seen, setting up data flows automatically as a new device is introduced in the network. So those are things that you can do on top, but out of the box, it should be transparent for any data center, the network.
So I've just received an addition to that question. Let me just read it up, because I receive it here via messages. It refers to data centers in local traffic systems. Does it?
In local traffic systems.
Yes.
I think, as Sebastian said, the system as such, the 5G system as such, is rather transparent. So you have let's call it the plug to your IT and OT is actually comes along as part of the core network. And as Sebastian said, you can segment, you can separate traffic into certain layers within your existing network and security infrastructure. So I would say the answer here is yes, of course. You can feed local, small, big data centers with the traffic that is determined to go there by separation of certain traffic from the 5G network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super. That seems to be the answer. Yes, thank you. There is one more question out here referring to the high rate of SMEs in Austria. And as you said, of course, Ericsson is a big partner. You said you also had companies of various sizes being part of your partner program. How can SMEs in particular profit from this partner program, from your solutions, without having the means of a big multinational companies? But probably that's the purpose of you stretching out your hand and saying, look, join us, we are the big guy, and we make sure that that we transfer some of the knowledge and experience we have to you. But maybe you could elaborate a bit on that. Certainly, probably sometimes fear of smaller companies or medium-sized companies to enter into a partnership with big companies like yours.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always a challenge to cooperate with different sizes of companies, but I think this is a quite good approach where there is up to each partner and where they would like to put the bar of the partnership. So, I mean, for a smaller actor, it could be anything from just getting the basic access to the documentation and the training in their own pace, learning more about 5G and understanding the concept. We also have partners that have kind of a niche technology. They are a bit small, but they have an important component in some of the use cases, and then they are brought in whenever that is needed on their own kind of capabilities and what they can do. So it's very much up to the partner on how much time and effort they want to put into this.
One rather practical question, of course, is, I mean, how do you become part of this partner program? Maybe I think you've slightly indicated it, but maybe you can make it clear again. How do you enter into a partnership with you? Are there any forms to be filled out? Is it just an informal contact? Yes. If so, with whom? Maybe you could, Sebastian, elaborate on that a bit.
Yeah, so I think the easiest way is in the presentation here. We have in the last slide, as you see here, there's a link to a form on our webpage where you can fill out that you're interested in this, and then you will be contacted by somebody in the team.
All right, it's just one last question coming in. All right, no, that this actually refers to the interest in individual slots, so we leave it at that. I think we have tackled all the questions which came in through the chat. And as I said before, Sebastian and Jan have kindly offered to take 3 10-minute one-on-one slots now. Those of you who have expressed interest will be contacted, or should have been contacted already, by my colleagues here in the office by email, and have received a Teams invitation link. So with that, I think we leave it as far as the webinar is concerned. As I said, smart manufacturing is a focus of our activities here in the Nordics. The thinking behind, of course, is that manufacturing is one of the mainstays of the Austrian export industry. If you look at our export statistics, most of the exports are in the machinery sector and the engineering sector. We want to make it possible for you to join forces with companies here in the Nordics to enter the Nordic markets, but also markets outside Sweden, outside Austria, on third markets. So that would certainly also be an opportunity. So I leave it at that. Thank you all for joining. And as I said, 3 of you will now have a 10-minute possibility to go into more detail as far as Ericsson's Industry 4.0 partner program is concerned. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Jan, for joining this webinar. Thank you, all of you who have joined us this morning. From me, Martin Katz, it's thank you and goodbye.